This video of Lakota Indians performing the ghost dance is one of the first of Thomas Edison's Kaleidoscope films. It was taken from one of Buffalo Bill's Wild West shows. This marks the beginning of Native depictions in film. Since then, there have been countless depictions of Natives in film, varying from savages to groovy. In this short video, I'll explain a brief history of Natives in the film industry. I will also compare a few films depicting historical events to what really happened in first-hand accounts. Finally, I will touch on some of the history of filmmaking in Utah specifically. In the 1910s, Natives were depicted in film quite sympathetically. The Red Man's View is one of the first movies to depict a Native American story. While there is a positive view on Natives, it also shows them as helpless and being forced to recede to the advancing whites. Also in 1910, James Young Deere of the Natticoke tribe was the first Native American director. He was hired by Pathé to make movies with a positive representation of Natives. He created about 150 movies, one of which being the 11-minute silent film White Fawn's Devotion, which was more recently added to the National Film Registry. Later in 1930, The Silent Enemy, directed by H.P. Carver, explores the famine experienced by the Ojibwe prior to colonization. At the beginning of the film, Chauncey Yellow Robe addresses the audience and discusses the tribe's connection to the story and desire to progress his tribe in the future. It was one of the most authentic films of its time, and it featured real Native actors. Much of the inspiration for films like this was to capture the Native American before they vanish, because the Native population at this time was down to about 250,000. Going into the 30s, Natives were turned into savages. In iconic films like Stagecoach and Telegraph Trail, Natives were given a barbarian-like and bloodthirsty stereotype that was set in the minds of American viewers for decades. This stereotype of savage Indians influenced much cinema that came after it. Many big Hollywood actors played in these early westerns as Native Americans with red face, some of which were Burt Lancaster, Charles Bronson, and Elvis Presley. This vicious Indian stereotype stuck around for a very long time through westerns and cowboy versus Indian narratives. Delmer Dave's 1950 film Broken Arrow, starring Jimmy Stewart, is known to be one of the first to break the trend and depict Natives in a more sympathetic light. Even still, the stereotype stuck around in a few films for quite a bit longer. Little Big Man in 1970 attempted to portray Indians without the stereotypes. It depicts the story of a white man who was raised by the Oglala Lakota tribe and witnesses the atrocities of the Battle of Little Bighorn with Crazy Horse and General Custer. With the use of satire, humor, and a story style that is similar to Forrest Gump, this film gave a deeper insight into what Native culture is really like.
I'm a warrior. Thank you for my victories and for my defeat.
I analyzed this movie and compared it to a first-hand account of the Battle of Little Bighorn. In an interview with Hamlin Garland, one Cheyenne chief named Two Moon shared his story. This is an excerpt from the interview as he explains the aftermath of the battle. Next day, 4 Sioux chief and 2 Cheyenne, and I, Two Moon, went up to the battlefield to count the dead. One man carried a little bundle of sticks. When we came to a dead man, we took a little stick and gave it to another man. So we counted the dead. We came to a man with a big mustache. He lay down the hills toward the river. The Indians did not take his buckskin shirt. The Sioux said, "That is a big chief. That is Long Hair." I don't know. I had never seen him. The man on the white-faced horse was the bravest man. While this movie included a lot of satire, it did a pretty decent job at holding some of the facts from the battle together. In the film, they refer to General Custer as Long Hair, and they said he was as brave as any Indian. With the Western going out of style in the 80s, there was more of an opportunity to change the way Natives were depicted. It wasn't until the 90s that Dances with Wolves, directed by and starring Kevin Costner, came out. which gave natives the chance to be seen as real people without the crazy stereotypes. While it is still criticized by many to depict white savior ideals and ironically stereotype a neighboring tribe, it is a step in the right direction. While it was meant to be historical fiction, it somewhat reflects the story of a real woman, Cynthia Ann Parker. While living in Fort Parker in Texas, a Comanche tribe attacked her family and took her hostage. For the next 24 years, she was raised as a Comanche, ended up marrying and having children with one of them. When she was around 33, Texas Rangers found and kidnapped her to reunite her with her family. She struggled to readjust and attempted to escape back to the Comanches many times. She died about 10 years later. While this is not the story depicted in Dances with Wolves, it is interesting to see the reflections to real life that it has. The 90s was the beginning of the golden age for Native depictions in film. While there were still some questionable messages being sent, like in Disney's Pocahontas, which falsely follows the story of John Smith and Powhatan princess Pocahontas, it progresses the idea that the only good Native is the one that helps white people. On the other hand, there are many films from the 90s that pulled Hollywood out of its harmful stereotypes of natives. Films like Powwow Highway and Smoke Signals show authentic Native lives right now instead of 200 years ago. They are also important since they are truly about the lives of natives, not just featuring them as side characters or antagonists.
Don't you even know how to be a real Indian?
I guess not.
Well, shit, no wonder. Jeez. I guess I'll have to teach you then, ain't it?
The 2002 film Wind Talkers gives another historical fiction representation of the World War II Navajo Code Talkers. 84-year-old Joe F. Price, former code talker from 1842 to 1845, said that they should have shown more talking on the radio and more message sending. And I would say 75% of it is real and 25% is fictionalized. Today, more and more positive depictions of Native Americans are popping up in film, not just as background characters or plot development, but as the main subject of films and TV shows. Filmmakers are not only changing stereotypes of natives, but they are also telling Americans and the world that natives aren't just a thing of the past. They are still very much around, and their culture is something that is important and can be learned from. Utah has had a major role in the film industry from almost the beginning. While California was doing well within their film industry, many other places were attempting to take advantage of other filming incentives. Due to Utah's proximity to Los Angeles and its beautiful and unique landscape, they had a lot going for them. Much of its popularity comes from the Perry brothers from Cedar City. They were successful businessmen whose company brought many tourists to Utah. With connections to the famous Western star Tom Mix, they were able to lure many executives from Hollywood studios out to the many beautiful locations in Utah. One of those executives was famous director Tom Ford. Much of the previously mentioned Western Stagecoach was filmed in Utah. Between the 1930s and the 1970s, hundreds of Westerns were made in southern Utah, from Cedar City to Moab and Monument Valley, that captured the imagination of the American West and established Kanab, Utah, as Little Hollywood. Utahns welcomed the outsiders because, as one Moab rancher put it, they don't take anything but pictures and don't leave anything except money. It stimulated the economy and provided many jobs for Utahns. More recently, the rise of the Sundance Film Festival made Utah known not only as a place to make films, but as a place to show them. Thousands of film lovers come to Park City every year to see the latest films, and indie filmmakers have continued to seek out new places to shoot in Utah. There are many well-known films that either have a cameo or are entirely shot in Utah. Footloose in 1984, starring Kevin Bacon, has scenes spanning from Provo to Lehigh to Payson. The World's Fastest Indian, having nothing to do with indigenous peoples, I might add, shows the highest speed racing in Utah Salt Flats, The Sandlot, Forrest Gump, Carnival of Souls, Independence Day, Indiana Jones, High School Musical, National Treasure, and even Dumb and Dumber all have scenes somewhere in the beautiful and vast state of Utah. Utah's contribution to the film industry is a testament to the state's rich culture and diverse landscape. From the early days of Hollywood to the present day, Utah has continued to attract filmmakers and audiences alike. The success of the Perry brothers and the rise of Little Hollywood and the Sundance Film Festival have all played significant roles in establishing Utah's reputation in the film industry. With countless films shot in the state, Utah has become an integral part of cinematic history. Its beauty and unique locations will undoubtedly continue to inspire filmmakers for years to come, ensuring that Utah remains an important player in the world of film.
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.